Whoa! Okay, now began 10 years ago. That doesn't happen. Hello and welcome or welcome back if you're new. My name is Kayla. I am a Canadian actress based in Toronto and I have been having a little bit too much fun with these videos. I feel like I've been learning so much, honestly, from watching these videos. Hearing these creatives' perspective just feels so inspiring, and I love anything movies. I enjoy film so much. I love this industry so much. There's a reason why this is what I want to do with my life, so yeah, I have been having so much fun, and I'm so grateful that you guys have been enjoying these videos as well. For today's video, we will be reacting to the SAG-AFTRA Foundation, which, if you don't know, SAG-AFTRA is the American union for people in the industry. They like to have conversations with actors, writers, producers, directors, you name it. They like to have conversations with people working in the industry. Recently, I watched a uniquely strange dark comedy called TWINLESS. TWINLESS follows Roman, played by Dylan O'Brien, and Dennis, played by James Sweeney, as they navigate the aftermath of losing their twin brothers. When they meet in a support group, an unexpected bond forms, but their growing friendship is shadowed by a dark secret one of them is hiding. It's definitely a strange film. It's dark comedy, so I mean, I laughed, I was uncomfortable at times, but I was entertained. It definitely did not shy away from the weight that comes with grief, along with the isolation that can come from loneliness. I enjoyed it. I thought it was entertaining, and I haven't seen anyone talk about it. Also, Dylan O'Brien, where is he finding the time to be in everything? This man is in everything. I have been a fan of Dylan O'Brien since Teen Wolf. I think he's really good at comedy, but he can also bring that seriousness that is needed. And if you've seen the film The Anniversary, he's also very good at playing a jackass. So, I mean, what can't he do, right? As for James Sweeney, I'm actually not familiar with him. This was the first thing I ever saw him in, and he also wrote and directed this film. Super interesting, for sure. I am going into this completely blind. All I know about this conversation is they will be talking about TWINLESS. Should be interesting to see their perspective, especially from James's side, as he did write, direct, and act in it. All right, I've done enough yapping. Let's just get into this conversation.
Well, I always like to start by asking actors, how did you get your SAG card? What was the job that brought that magical card to you?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm actually not a member of SAG.
I forgot about this.
This is how we...
Whoa, okay, wow, starting off hot. First question, asking what project got them into the union, and James here just revealed he is not in the union. That just shows, like, that is so impressive, because when you are in the union, there are a lot of benefits from being in the union, especially he is writer, director, and actor, so this film he made would have had to have been completely independent. From my knowledge of the American Union is when you are in the union, if you're wanting to work on a project that is not a union project, I think you have to pay. I am not an expert at all. I do not know the American Union at all. Not even in the Canadian Union yet. Would love to be. Hey, from what I know about the union here, if you are a union member, it is almost impossible to work a non-union job. There are, of course, exceptions like student film, and I think that certain independent films can buy kind of permits that allows them to have union people in it. Again, I'm not an expert. Yeah, that's shocking to me because it's one of those things that's kind of like drilled into your head that if you want to do something that people will see, you have to be in the union. So, gotta say, love to hear that. Would love to know how he then got Dylan O'Brien to be in his film. Interesting, interesting. Wow, right off the gate. So interesting.
I am a must join.
Well, because you're...
But in the interim, if anyone wants to cast me in a non-union commercial, I am Tech Avail LA.
But you've always created your own work, so it makes sense. Yeah, that's a great way to bypass the audition situation entirely. Yeah. And for you?
It was a TV show called Teen Wolf.
Oh, that was your first.
Yeah. Okay.
To know that that was a project that got him in the union, interesting. I know that also Dylan O'Brien kind of dabbled in the online thing as well before. I think he did like YouTube skits, and he had a little bit of a following on, I believe, YouTube, at least on the internet. So you never know.
Okay. People know it.
Really? Not even like commercials or anything before that?
No, that was my first role out of high school, yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
I know.
That doesn't happen. It doesn't happen as often as I think the industry would like to kind of show it happens. That's crazy. And that's also incredible luck. Again, I do believe he had a bit of a following online, so I'm sure that that helped. But it is so rare for somebody to their very first role be a success, but also their very first role to kind of like open up all the doors. That doesn't happen. It can kind of seem like that happens because the role you might first see somebody in is their big break or is the role that kind of started everything. What you don't see very often are the smaller roles that then led to that big role, that then opened up all the doors. So very rare. Very, very rare.
Again, this is a truly unique and special film, and I know it's been a long time in the making. James, what was sort of the initial spark or idea for the story that would become Twinless, which I think began like 10 years ago, I want to say? Wow.
Began 10 years ago. Now that is very common. Most movies that you see were years in the making. It's kind of crazy how so much goes into all of the pre-production, and then it's like the minute production starts, it's done like that. It's a flash. It's insane. Especially nowadays, films are made so quickly. Sometimes you're filming for 2 weeks. So to think that you have this film that was in pre-production for 10 years, and then you film it for 2 weeks, and then the editing happens, and then now films don't get as long of a release, so it's more difficult to see them in theaters. It's just, yeah.
So, I've always been fascinated by twins. I first heard of the twin bereavement support group, and it really struck me as a singularly profound and lonely loss because it's such a splitting of oneself.
Mm-hmm.
So I started writing the first draft at the end of 2015 after my identical twin boyfriend broke up with me. I should clarify, he was my boyfriend, not my identical twin.
I was just going to say. No judgment. Safe space.
Incest cannibalism.
I thought about that. I did. Sorry, I was telling him about an incest.
We're cooking up another one.
Yeah.
If you guys liked.
That's a sequel. And then, yeah, I mean, and he's alive for the record, but I don't know. I think the relationship resurfaced like my childhood memories of yearning for a twin, and
Yeah.
I grew up in the era of Mary Kate and Ashley Olsen and The Parent Trap and Sister Sister, and all these things had in common is running into the long-lost twin that you never knew you had, and that making your life so much better. So that's what I wanted for myself.
Didn't we all, though? Oh my gosh. I know. I myself am a lot. If there were two of me, I think I'm grateful that there's only one. Yeah.
Dylan, you've also been involved with the script for a long time.
Sorry. You're making me
Like
laugh.
5 years, I believe.
Yeah.
What
5 years, yeah.
interested you in it, not only as a actor, but to make your, executive producer debut with?
Well, that technicality came from James, which was a lovely invitation. And by that point, I think, since I guess I had earned it with the staying aboard for four or 5 years at that point, so. But initially, I mean, oh my God, what struck me about it at first as an actor was everything about it. I mean, I just thought it was incredible, and I just wondered immediately who wrote this, and I immediately sort of did all the research I could on who did write it, and he had made a film before this. So I got to kind of read the script and then go watch James's first movie all in one night, and I was like, this guy is like so talented, and why haven't I heard of him, and how did this end up in my inbox? And I'm just so lucky that it did. And that he didn't turn out to be crazy. He's like so talented that I was like, oh, he's probably insane.
That is so relatable. If you've seen this film, yeah, I can see why Dylan might have had those thoughts. But also, there is this kind of theme, we can say, of this kind of like correlation between brilliance and crazy. There's a lot of interesting people in the creative world. Sometimes the people who have some of the most striking and just beautiful work are characters. Yeah.
You've done so many different genres and mediums. I'm curious, what gets you to read a script? You said it made its way to your inbox, but why did this one catch your
Good
attention?
question.
What gets me to read a script?
Yeah.
That's an interesting question. I've never gotten this one. Well, I'm nosy. Like, I want to know what's happening. I don't know. It also came to me in a time where, like, I had, like, two professional experiences largely sort of carry me through my first, like, 6 years in the business, 7-ish years in the business, that both sort of concluded within a few months of one another. And I don't know. I was kind of entering a different space and chapter in my career, I guess, for the first time. And so I don't know. I was sort of, I was reading a lot. I was reading everything and seeing what I wanted to go and try to tackle and what I was even responding to. I think so much of it was even just sort of self-reflective, and I was looking for, what I was responding to. I wanted to see what made me tick.
Most actors will read your script. A lot of actors love reading scripts and hearing stories. It's not difficult to get the actors to read your script. I think the biggest obstacle is getting your script to an actor, especially if you are non-union trying to get to a union actor. I know that can be very difficult. The bigger of a celebrity, we'll say, an actor might be, the bigger of a team the actor might have. There are so many more people you need to go through to get to that actor, which, I mean, is obviously to protect that actor. But with that being said, sometimes these little gems of film don't get seen by the bigger actor. And I didn't know that he was attached to the film for 5 years beforehand. I think that just speaks to how much he believed in the story, believed in James and his work. So
Came in for interest, and this one just I luckily opened and I couldn't put it down, and I ripped through it, and the rest is history.
This may sound like a strange question, but so much of the movie hinges on the relationship between Dennis and Roman. How did you know you would have that chemistry? I don't think that there was any kind of a chemistry read. Is it something you just put two good actors in a room and you know it'll work?
That's kind of you. I think, I used to work in casting as my day job.
You're kidding. Oh,
no,
wow.
Yeah. I really adhered to the philosophy that casting is 90% of directing, and I'm looking for. I also write very specifically, so when I'm thinking of talent, on one hand, I do think my background in casting maybe has opened up my imagination in a way, because Hollywood casting can often be very put people in a box, and also because I'm an actor. I understand how that can feel really deflating and marginalizing. So I think for me, in addition to, particularly for this film, I was looking for an actor who had comedic and dramatic versatility, was in a certain age range, but more so than that, I was also looking for a partner because I am green and I wanted somebody who would make me feel safe, and Dylan was very unintimidating.
Another really good question. I really like this interviewer. Really thoughtful and interesting questions that she's bringing up. Also, shout out to casting. He's absolutely right. Casting directors are what make the industry go round, I will say. Casting directors do so much for our industry, and I don't think they get enough love, respect, or recognition. Definitely a great skill to have, and I think it's a very unique skill for him to have. It also highlights something that's pretty important about this industry, which is nobody really just does one thing. Some actors get their start in wardrobe or makeup or casting. I mean, I know so many actors, their job outside of acting is they're a reader. So when somebody has an audition, casting would have to hire somebody to read the sides so that you had somebody to do your scene with. So a lot of actors also, that is a job that they do. There's so many parts to this industry that people don't see, but also that people don't know about at all.
I am fascinated by how actors. Oh, I'm sorry. To your other question, you know, it's a great portrayal of sibling bereavement. It's also very funny and, you know, dark. It's sometimes all at the same time. It's such a specific tone. How did you sort of find that balance? Because I know a lot of it's got to be in the script, but on set, did you try different takes? Are you still finding the movie and editing even?
Yeah, well, I believe you write a film 3 times, once in the script phase again when you're filming, and then you rewrite it again when you're editing. I think in terms of the tonal tightrope and the fluctuations, that was something I was very mindful of, even from the opening pages, and trying to establish it early that we are going to have this latitude. I think for me, it feels... and why I feel it, it feels okay to me, like joy and despondency are like 2 sides of the same coin, and you can't have one without the other. I feel like that's life. There is pathos, but there's also tragedy, and I think that's just trying to portray it honestly, and just hope that if you in the moments that feel lighthearted or comedic, because a lot of the humor in the film, it's context based. It's not necessarily like hard jokes. So I think for me, just trying to keep it honest, and that was sort of, I guess, my North Star in terms of trying to make it feel like it's not tonal whiplash, and while making sure it feels integrated.
Was beautifully said. Why I felt like this film was so unique and interesting is the tone, because it has this very heavy undertone of grief and loneliness. Like at its core, it is a film about grief and loneliness. There are some very kind of like outlandish things that are also happening in this film. To be able to capture the grief and the loneliness while also making you laugh, I mean, it's a very fine line. It is one of those things that you can read a script and get one thing, but when you're actually there on set, like he said, you write a film 3 times. Totally, because you can see something in the script, read something in the script, and then once you're there, once you actually have the full picture, once you're actually in the scene with your scene partner, you're figuring out what your scene partner is giving you. Things can change. And then again, with editing, you can paint such a beautiful picture with editing. Honestly, editing makes or breaks your film. That is where all the magic happens. That is where your film comes together. Finding that editor who can speak your unique language is crucial.
Was there a point where you sort of knew you had it? Because I should mention, you know, this film obviously premiered earlier this year at the Sundance Film Festival, where it won both the Audience Award and a special acting recognition for Dylan. Yes. That's probably your first time seeing it with like a paying audience. Was there like a moment in the movie where you knew you had pulled it off?
I mean, they were laughing in the funeral scene. So, because we had done like smaller screenings, like even with like a couple filmmakers, and the first I'm like, oh God, they're not laughing. And it wasn't until like, maybe, I don't, it would vary audience to audience. But that was the first time we saw it with like 1,200 people where every like moment or beat that you wanted somebody to gasp or feel like it all hit. And now it was like, oh, I didn't even realize it could all work.
Yeah.
You know? So that was really affirming and wonderful to experience, because I've seen it so many times, but I got to watch it through the audience.
I mean, Dilly,
That's so important. One of the reasons why I don't believe that we should be trying to steer away from theater is watching a film with an audience can change everything for a film. There's something about getting to experience film with a bunch of strangers and just, like he's saying, laughing with a crowd, crying with a crowd. When you're watching a film in a theater, you're also forced to kind of turn off your cell phone and just fully enjoy the film. I really wish that the industry would recognize that. I just gonna say it. I do think that the industry isn't doing enough to keep the integrity of that. So, but as always, that could be a video on its own. I know I love to tease my little rants. I do think that if the industry doesn't kind of try to come back to watching films in theater, I do think it will be a huge loss to the industry.
I mean, Dylan, you've probably, not asking you to name names, but you've probably had experiences where you thought you signed up for one thing and the movie turned out completely different. How did you know that, this was going to work?
You don't, I guess. You never do. But I guess there's just like, if first of all, knowing that, right? Otherwise, I mean, you would just not do anything. But like there was so much meat on the bone here that I had such belief in, and I had such confidence and belief in James and the hands that I was gonna be in. I don't know. It was honestly just trusting sort of my sensibility at the time and my take on kind of the piece of material, the like strong instinct, gut instinct that I felt toward it, and James as a filmmaker, so I was just like, I really think this can be special, and like meaning it had a really strong floor as well. So it's a huge swing, but I knew the language of it so well, and I really felt like the contrast of like us was gonna really work. I had a real belief in that as well from the beginning, and I was like, and if James is sort of as talented of a filmmaker as I think he might be, this could like fucking sing, and I think it's still like drastically exceeded my expectations, and yeah, it is a really special moment when that happens, because to your point, I have been doing this at least long enough to know that it doesn't always go that way. And in fact, it's very difficult to make a film work. And so much of this, craft is, and you're guessing, making things is you're guessing, and it's so much conversation and decisions, and sure, you can play with different levels and takes, and it's constantly measuring those levels, and you're constantly just like, I don't know, are we earning it here? Are we pulling this off? Like, okay, and it's always measuring, and then you're doing that same thing in post, and then you, to the best of your sort of ability and sense, kind of get it to a point that you're happy with, and then it's a whole other, then you're just like, I don't know if anyone else is going to agree necessarily that we hit all these notes. And with something like this that had, to the earlier conversation, so many tonal like tightropes, and like such a thing that people are so terrified of nowadays. And this was a film that people were so terrified of. We were passed on over 100 times over those course of the 4 years that I was attached. And so you do have a level of like, it is a difficult film to get right.
So much good stuff here. You never know what is going to work. You never know what is going to resonate with people. And also, I am not surprised at all that this film got passed a lot, that people were afraid to make this film. It's a film that is different. This is an industry at the end of the day they want to make money. So a lot of the time they will go with the safe bet. They will go with what they know will work. But yeah, back to the point, you never know what's going to hit. You don't. And you just have to be okay with that.
But that's the fun of making something, you know? I don't want to do something down the fucking middle, you know? Because the ceiling is so much lower. I mean, we're so proud of how this came out and what we did. This will always be such a special time for us and such a special project for each of us, you know, in our careers. So, yeah, man, like that, when it works like that, it's just so worth it, but it is scary and it is a risk, you know? But this has been such a risk-averse landscape these days with the industry, and I'm so happy that we fucking took one.
Me too. It sounds like, you know, it was a fun film to make, but you are making and making any movie can be brutal. You're making an independent film on an independent budget and schedule. You're also being asked to go to some really emotional places. Is it ever hard on you as actors? Are you the kind of actors that take your work home with you, or do you have a way of like sort of letting it go at the end of the day?
I mean, there's certain elements that you take home with you that you don't really realize. I don't think I dramatically go home. I go home with quite like a sense of relief, a sense of unpacking the day, certainly a sense of like feeling good if you've done an emotional scene for sure. Like there's a cathartic element to it. But yeah, this was a really safe environment that we were operating within too. So I guess in terms of those heavier things, we were still having fun the whole time, you know, and I think that really sort of influenced such achievement in those areas.
If you want the actors to go to those places, if you want them to give you their best work, you have to make them feel seen and you have to make them feel safe. It is so vulnerable to go to where actors have to go to take on what actors have to take on to be able to do what they have to do for these heavier topics.
I actually think that it's the opposite. If it's a tense environment, if it's sort of something that there's a degree of fear, if there's a degree of you know, dynamic on set with your filmmaker or something that's like, you know, not great. There's an intimidation there. There's like, if there is to any degree a feeling of the environment not being safe, you actually don't get the best work, vulnerable work. You know, when you're doing the vulnerable stuff, it's really really benefits you to be comfortable and to curate a comfortable and supportive room.
Yeah, I do believe that the environment that you cultivate does end up landing on screen. I think Dylan and I are compatible in the sense that we are both unserious people who take the work quite seriously, and so I'd say that it was challenging, of course, because as any film, particularly low budget independent films, are to produce. But it was a good time. And
we have a question from Jonathan Moore. Wants to know, what is the biggest misconception you had about the acting industry before you started, and what was the reality?
Interesting.
I remember when I was in film school, a casting director came and talked about. I guess the biggest misconception is you just cast the best person for the part.
Yeah, I was literally thinking that. I was like, honestly, I remember at the beginning thinking like, oh, it's always just the best person. As long as I work really hard, the best will be picked. That's almost never the case.
Because, you know, when you audition for... sorry. You know, when you audition for the school play, when there's only so many applicants, and you know, I mean, even then, that's probably political too. But whatever.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, there are like, you know, especially when you're talking about independent films and leads of those, there's like a list that your financier or your agent or whoever, and it can feel very reductive. So I guess that would be just in terms. I just had no clue how the industry worked.
Yeah.
I definitely never paid a lot of attention to the other job that you inherit if you are lucky enough to inherit and succeed to a certain point, which is the sort of selling the thing part side of things.
Yeah.
That's not something you like go to school for. That's not, and I didn't even go to school for acting, so I didn't go to school for any of it, and that was definitely like still is a big piece of the learning curve for me, you know.
Yeah, that is really important to highlight because I don't think I know any actors who got into acting to sell films. That's not something that we think about. It's not something that everybody has to think about, but it is something that most actors don't think about.
It's more what people feel like the people who are really like, you know, at the top and packaging these movies together, like first and foremost, again, like to kind of what James was saying, it's like you being right for the part, or you sort of being like, you know, talented, somebody that you want to work with, all these things that you would think are valued to a high degree and are, but they come a little lower on the list, I think, than you'd expect, you know. They really want to know that you're gonna be somebody who's like game to be out there and like selling the thing.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting learning curve. One of the first things I remember noting too when I first got in the industry was like, I remember always thinking, because I really loved acting as a kid. I really loved movies. I say that, by the way, I never acted in anything,
Really?
like in plays, in classes, in high school, in anything.
Again, his journey is not normal.
I was sort of just this kid who like really loved movies, and I would kind of screw around and make my own little things like at home, but it was very like insular and private, and something that I would always think that almost prevented me from ever doing it. You know, thankfully things turned out the way they did, and I got a chance to go and try it, and I did. But for so long I was like, oh, I mean, like I like it, and I like screwing around. But, you know, they're like the movies, the industry, they really know what they're doing. You know, those people, that's like the top brass, you know. And one of the first things I realized when I got on set was I really do know what I'm doing. Yeah. And there's not a ton of top brass around. You'd be a little surprised. Mm-hmm. So you belong a lot more than you think. I think that's like a valuable thing to know, because
yes. And that's not shade at all, what he's saying. It might come across as being shady, but it's not. Nobody knows what they're doing. Like, I think in anything, let's be for real, this industry is so unique in the sense that nobody has the same path, but nobody really knows what is the right way to do anything. So there is so much making it up as you go, and there's so much learning as you go, and it is something that you are learning honestly forever.
I look back to my teenage self and I really remember feeling like, oh, I couldn't actually do that on a professional level. That's like a professional level, you know? And even just when I was 18 and I first got on set, I was like, I've got my feet under me a little bit with this. I do understand this stuff, you know?
To that end, I mean, because you've been on, you know, the other side in casting, both as a filmmaker and a casting associate, and you've probably run the gamut of the audition scenes. Is there anything that helped you make peace in the audition room with the process?
That's a great question.
Or anything you would want people to know if they're coming in, you know, if they're talking to you about one of your movies?
In terms of the auditioning process?
Yeah,
well, that's interesting. The in-person is so... in-person is... I mean, we've almost done mostly with it, right? Yeah, I think it depends on who you are, obviously. I don't know how much insight I'm going to get into. I hope I find some. But I remember it being such a thing where I wasn't a good auditioner at all.
People aren't.
Yeah, and most people aren't, because they have qualities, ironically enough, that make them a good actor. Mm-hmm. It's a sensitive quality. Oh God, never mind. Sorry. Thought she was like resonating with what I was saying, but she was getting something on her headphones. I was like, you too? Yeah. I guess a rounding out way to somewhat make it like valuable to hear is if you are like struggling with auditioning, as you know, I guess don't take that as a sign that like you can't do this, you know, because
Oh.
that fucking room.
I hope you don't mind. Mr. Nemo has come to join. This is Mr. Nemo. He's one of my babies. He's so sweet.
Is not the environment that is even required to exist in when even if you get the job. If you survive that room, it's all about surviving the room. It becomes less about presenting an idea and less about kind of your sort of ability, preparation, you showing that, right? Like, and presenting that. It becomes like, do they like you? You know, it really does. And like surviving the sort of, that sensitivity of that room, like the personalities, you know. I remember being a really sensitive auditioner, like still am. I just mostly tape now, I just feel like. And it just because if somebody's like intimidated, if somebody has like a kind of like a, you know, whatever attitude, I'm immediately like, oh my God, not safe. So I don't know. I just think that those qualities don't necessarily equate to your ability to be an actor. In fact, it's actually quite the opposite.
While there are things about auditioning in the room that I do miss, redirections in the room, because now when you self-tape, it's just, you're putting yourself out there. It's whatever you come up with, and that's it. It's one of the reasons why a lot of actors use a coach for their self-tapes, because they do want kind of that redirect. They do want that working with someone. Still, a really great thing to do if you don't have the money for a coach is to have a really good friend who is also an actor, who's always your reader, and you guys kind of, you already have that baseline, you already feel safe to be with them, but they get it. That's just a thing that can help with self-tapes. When you're walking into that audition room, I will say a lot of actors we are sensitive people. I will say that our emotions are right there. They have to be for us to do our work. So because of that, sometimes when you go into a very uncomfortable room, and most of the time, if not all of the time, it's not uncomfortable because of anything you did. It is easy for actors to walk into that room, immediately feel that energy, and put it on ourselves. It is so easy for us to think we are the reason why it is like that.
It's such a weird process. I don't know of a better one, to be honest, but like what you do in an audition room isn't necessarily what you'll be doing on set. Well, I want to remind everyone this movie is actually now streaming everywhere, and it is such a special film. Please spread the word, let people know. Thank you for being a great audience. Thank you so much for being here.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
I love that. I love that so much. I love Q&As. I love hearing people talk about the work. I love hearing people talk about what it took to get to where they are and how they were able to make films, because it is so hard. But yeah, that host was really good. Actually, let me just look up her name. Her name is Janelle Riley. She had some really great, thoughtful questions, and I really appreciated her interview. Loved hearing both of their perspectives, and they both have such unique, different perspectives as well. I am a huge cheerleader for independent film. I love the indie scene. I think that the indie scene needs more love, so anytime I get to talk about a film that maybe not everybody has seen or heard of, I'm going to. I do think that this film is very unique, and I would love for more people to see it. Thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on new videos. Let me know down below. Are you going to watch TWINLESS? Have you seen it? If you have, what'd you think of it? I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Well, that is it for today's video. Thanks again, and I'll see you next week.